You run down on your feature event, 25 laps. On the pole is car number 98, Bud Finale of Jamestown, New York, a 1957 Chevy. On the pole, car number 68, Jim Scott of Grand Valley, PA, a 1957 Chevy. Next off the pole, car number 21, Billy Layfield of Wellsville, New York, a 1956 Chevy.
With him that he was going to be a racer along the lines of his brothers?
From the time that I met the man, that's all that he thought about. He went to the races with his brothers, and I went with him as the years passed on, and he ended up racing for 52 years, so he must have loved it.
Unbelievable, 52.
Dean was very inventive, and he had a big old black Cadillac. And of course, most people either had a trailer or tow chained or something like it. But Dean took and on the back of the trunk, he put a hoist. And he towed his stock car to the races with that hoist with that Cadillac, and everybody could sit inside in luxury. And he ended up selling it to Bill, and that's what Bill was towing with. So we'd go to the races, and I don't even know what year Cadillac it was, but it was a lot of fun.
When Dean died in 1961, what was the story about how that happened?
Well, there's been a lot of different things said on that, but I know that day that he went to the races, Bill always went with him, and that day he did not.
Oh.
And we got a telephone call, and Bill took off and went up to Perry and on to Warsaw to the hospital. And the only thing that we knew that day was that that Dean had taken and come off him the straightaway into corner number 1, and he kept right on going and canteened a field. And they figured that a stone come up and hit him. He had a black and blue spot, or a mark, on his head by his temple, and just one on his chest where the seat belts were. Other than that, that's the only marks he had on him. So, but they said that the head damage was extensive.
Right.
So he lived for a couple of days up in the hospital, and they had transferred him up to Buffalo. And it just nothing they could do for him.
Right. So the funeral itself was what was the reaction of the drivers and the racing community?
There was a vast amount of flowers. Oh, you wouldn't have believed the flowers and the people. I mean, it was just tons and tons of people. It was vast, and everybody loved Dean.
Right. What was he like?
He was a character. I picked on him. But
what was unique about that character?
Oh, he was just Dean. He was funny. He was silly. Just a person that you could take and laugh with, and he was just a good guy. Everybody got along good with him. In 1965, if you had new tin on your car, and you came for the first 6 weeks, you'd get a $100 bonus, and I can't remember whether it was if you finished or if you started the feature or if you won the feature. But it was quite a thing. They had it between Stateline and Erie that year.
Okay.
So Bill went out and bought a 65 Buick. It was wrecked, and he had a fantastic year that year. He won 35 features and traveled all over the place, and among them was Stateline and Erie.
Yeah. I understood that having females in the pit area was rare.
There was no women allowed in the pits. I mean, Alice and I, as soon as they got into the pits, we went to the scoreboard scoring. There was no women allowed in the pits.
So you were as close as they got.
Why do you suppose that was that women weren't allowed, Betty?
I don't know.
What were they afraid of? Or?
I don't know. I guess they wanted it to be a man's world.
How did Billy get 21 and then later 121?
Well, that's quite a history. Bill, like I say, from the time I can ever remember, he wanted to race, and back then you had to be 21 to be able to race. Or you had to have somebody sign for you. Well, Dean signed for him so that he could race. But when he got to be 21 and he had his own car,
Yeah.
there
I
come
get it.
21. And they went to Stateline, and somebody else had 21. So he said, I just had this all painted, I'll just put another one in front of it. So that's where 121 came
There
in.
you go.
What did Billy think was his highlight?
His highlight? Well, probably one of the biggest highlights that I can remember him really being ecstatic about is the first year they had a Dean Layfield Memorial Race. He won it.
Yeah.
And he was
At what track?
no, not Mills. Woodhull.
Woodhull, okay.
And he was very thrilled that he'd won it. It just really meant a lot to him.
Dean Layfield, if you had to describe physical appearance, I'm not sure anybody's ever done that for us.
I'm going to say 5'9" maybe, and small in structure. Wasn't thin, but he was small. He didn't have much hair, and I called him curly, and he hated it. But I probably was the only one that ever got away with
I
that.
was going to say.
But it's one of those things where he was just he's built about like you.
A self-promoter, and I say that in a positive sense. Do you get a sense of that at all?
Oh, Dean liked to take and encourage a lot of different things. He was a promoter.
Yeah.
It's just like when how many people have ever taken and got a car given to them, and they take off and go to Florida and race last year on the sands and drive the car down, race, come in 12th, turn around, drive the car back home.
I love the story.
Yep. So there's not too many people that do that.
Is there a legacy of the Layfield family racing? Is there? Can you describe it at all?
I think it's just something that it started as a hobby and ended up being something that they all love.
Yeah.
It's just a sport that they love. And it started with jalopy racing, and it's going on today.